Yeah, to say that the schedule is a point of contention for UMass fans, especially recently, like myself, and like I only like UMass just because I grew up in Massachusetts. They were a great team, and I just wanted a team to get behind. Really, I'm an Army fan, of course. It's my number one team, but UMass is easy to root for just with the struggles that they've had at the FBS level, and so like it's easy to root for them, especially since they became an independent. They were the underdog. Now they're finally in the MAC. Still rooting for them, really, because that underdog allure is still there. But with the schedule, the fact that they gave up the Hawaii game and scheduled two FCS teams like Buffalo, there really isn't much to say. But if there's a program that needs to win two games against any team from any division, it's UMass. Um, I mean, Sacred Heart and Stonehill, that's the bottom of the barrel. Sacred Heart's in the Coastal Athletic Association. They really, I mean, they're really more of a Northeast Conference team. They still have that profile, I think, despite being in the Coastal. So that should be a game for UMass that UMass should be able to win. But then again, Bryant was the exact same team, and UMass lost to Bryant at home. So I think it's good that they have games against Sacramento State, that they at least got Sacramento State, that they got Akron at home, they got Ball State at home. Those are two other winnable games that it's good to see them have at home. And then as well, I just going back to the scheduling and the MAC, really, like you'd like to see if they're gonna put Buffalo UMass, if they're gonna give UMass a game on a Saturday, on Thanksgiving Saturday, I would hope it would have been the Buffalo game. So again, I reiterate another questionable choice by the MAC, by the powers that be for the MAC scheduling these games. But you just really hope that UMass can just win both their FCS games, maybe beat Sacramento State, and then maybe win one of the more winnable games against Ball State or Akron, and just hope for some growth. Honestly, I think Harris Simiak I think he's a really good coach, and UMass is a tough job. He has a profile. He had success at Maine, but again, Maine was playing regional rivals. Recruiting in the Coastal, then Colonial Athletic Association, is different than recruiting in the MAC when you're playing against schools that aren't in your region. So you don't have that draw of having a local New England kid saying you're going to play against Maine, or you're going to play against Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. You're going to play against all those schools. Instead of playing those schools, like they're playing Eastern Michigan, Ball State, Toledo, and it's just a harder draw for like siphoning that talent in the Northeast. But there really isn't that much to say about UMass's schedule other than I just hope that they win winnable games. And I think that's a lot of the fan base's sentiment, because there's definitely frustration. The Hawaii game being gone did not help that, because that essentially would have been a bowl game, really. So, um, yeah, it's a tough situation to say the least.
Yeah, and it's kind of disappointing they didn't do that because that would definitely feel, that would give you the feeling of a bowl game a little bit for UMass. Like I think that would have been pretty cool for them. And there would definitely be ways to figure it out. I believe playing that game would have allowed UMass to play in week 0 and still get that kind of half bye week thing. Now I understand playing 13 games with only one 10-day break in there probably is not optimal. Maybe that's what they looked at, but I'm sharing the same sentiment as you, where I hope that we can see UMass just take some steps forward. I want them to gain momentum. I'm really rooting for them to get going, and of course, like I think there's a lot of hope that comes around at least finally being in a conference and having the same conference opponents. I think that kind of I think that kind of energized their fan base a little bit. And they have the investment. Like if you could get the momentum going, like you could start to get access to better players, and all of that in the region and start to really you could see where this program could get going. But really it's very hard to get off the mat. And that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. That I just didn't really think of, like how there's familiarity in the schedule rather than just a bunch of random home and home games, or even like the Power Four games. Where I wonder how much of a draw Power Four games are if you are a Group of Five program and you're losing all those Power Four games, because it's cool to say to a 17, 18-year old recruit, like you'll play against four SEC teams a year or four Power Four teams a year. But I feel like we don't give 17 and 18-year-olds as much credit as they deserve for them saying like, yeah, but we're not going to win any of those games. Like I imagine that that's a thought process that went into a lot of UMass recruits if they had been given that line. So I think just the better competition should help. But like you said, I mean, the way that we're looking at this is different than most of the other teams in this league. Just kind of shows how bleak the situation has gotten in UMass, and I just hope he gets better, really. But at least they get Sacramento State in California. That's kind of a bowl game. I mean, even though it's in September and not in November, where the weather's bad in Amherst, like at least there's some relief there.